Hey everybody, welcome to this session of AINA. Thank you for joining us on a weekend. Uh, so we in AINA, which is part of Project Bhaskar, we talk about India's youth crisis, India's employment crisis, and how the employment crisis is not the fault of one thing, but many interplaying factors. AINA's specific focus is to build a platform and a discussion forum and hopefully solutions to the crisis, because if we don't solve it, our future is looking pretty bleak and pretty challenging. So with that brief intro about what AINA is, let me just move to the next slide. A quick intro on Project Bhaskar. Project Bhaskar is a adaptive.me initiative, and it's a not-for-profit research lab based out of Ajmer. And we basically provide AI-powered insights by leveraging artificial intelligence. We work in cultural preservation to make sure our heritage and culture is preserved and kept intact for future generations. We work towards youth empowerment and climate and sustainability. Our viewpoint is that culture is a fabric that has an intricate connection of all of these forces at play. So we don't look at culture as one thing, but an interplay of many things that work together to build a society. Uh, Today's session at AINA is about a century of talent leaving. So, as you all know, we all have a lot of people who live abroad. We know friends, colleagues, and family members who are settled abroad, plan to go abroad. We ourselves might have spent some time. I myself have spent multiple stints abroad. In the last couple of years, we've started thinking and questioning the impact of immigration a lot, but we never talk about emigration, which means the home country that sends people out. And if you look at the data, India is particularly impacted by immigration. And so what we did at AINA was to take 100 years worth of data from whatever data sources available and compile them in a visual manner to show people how emigration has impacted us. And the numbers are quite shocking, because sometimes you know that this is a problem, but you don't know the magnitude of the problem. And we built this tool, which is a very simple tool. So we intentionally built a simple tool because we wanted the maximum number of people to engage with it. We wanted also to see institutions in a new light, because a lot of the people who study in our higher education institutions leave the country, and that is at a social cost. Even though we seem to think that people pay fees and study, but in building institutions is not being or funding institution is not through one person's fees. It's a society cost. So we need to look at it that way. So the format of today's talk is not a unidirectional thing. What I would like to do is for all of you to go to this website, aina.adaptive.me talent flow. I'm going to paste this on the chat so that everybody can open it on their own computer or phone, because this is mobile friendly. Hopefully it should work for you guys. And basically, a quick rundown about this and what you're supposed to do as an exercise is this tool essentially, as you move through the decade by decade, you will see the graphic below changing, and you will see this data changing over here. I encourage you all to go through this. It should not take you more than 10 minutes or maybe even 5, 7 minutes. There is no structure. You can play around with the tool, look at the data, look at the numbers and the text. And I would encourage everybody to take a minute to think about it. And then we'll go around the table talking about what each person's feedback, input, or thoughts are. Again, there are no guardrails. This is a simple tool. You can just play around with it. Each time you move a decade, new countries will appear. and there are new data that will appear. So what we have done, just to give a quick heads up, so we go to 1924-34, the first decade of the century, last century. We've done an estimated GDP loss. How we have calculated this is basically we've taken an estimation, a value per person year, which means that how much would that person contribute to the economy for their working years. We've gotten the data of 15,000 people who emigrated that year from the census of. This is a very interesting book by H. Tinker. So Hugh Tinker is a very interesting person. That's a separate matter. So we've done this calculation. You are free to look at this calculation if you are an economist. You can see the institutions that send these people abroad. And then the other thing we also measured, which comes up in the future next decades, is how many people actually came back and how much money came back. So you will start seeing that number appear over here in green, how much remittances and FDI came back and how that changed. And so this kind of creates a balance of payments effect, like this much money and capital went out or loss happened. And you will quickly see yourself what happens when you engage with these numbers. There is not all negative, some positives did happen. So you can read over here the knowledge and people who returned. So please take 10 minutes, play around with the tool, maybe 5 minutes, because then 10 minutes will become too long. I'll keep myself on mute. If you have questions, please speak up. After you have all done, do a show of hands that you have played with the tool and you have some thoughts, questions, or ideas. And we will go around the table and hear what each person what their reaction was, what their ideas were, and that would be the only exercise. After that, we will draw a conclusion and stop the event. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. The link is already there in the chat, aina.adaptive.me talent flow. There are other tools on this platform. Please don't go there. Just stay on this because we want to keep it very, very time bound so that we can all carry on with our weekends. So yeah, with that note, let over to everybody else. Yeah. Any questions before I stop? No questions? Okay.
No, Prakash.
So yeah, okay. So please try the tool and I will wait for you guys to finish it and then raise a hand once you're done. Okay. So I noticed Ayushi joined later. Does she know what she needs to do? Okay. Mm. So where are you seeing Y2K? That was a uh, the year 2000 bug. So okay, I will bring this up when we discuss it. So uh, okay. So Dharmender, you can over to you. You can share with us what your thoughts were or questions.
Okay, so for me, I think it's a great tool because it visualizes India's brain drain, let's say over the last 100 decades, and it's breaking down every decade what has gone and what has left with us and what's coming back. I'm enjoying this tool. I have question that says after we read the column of what came back as capital
Mm-hmm.
and knowledge returned. So
Mm-hmm.
below that you have put down a quote which says the loss compounds, right? At
Mm.
the end, you say is the measurable cost of a country that trained its people and then gave them nowhere to go. So nowhere to go means less of opportunities in India, right?
Yeah, so basically what it highlights is the thought it's a tool I intentionally left there to kind of make people think that Indians are leaving because they don't have anywhere to go locally. So they're leaving the country. So you graduate out of college and there is nothing, no opportunity. You graduate out of masters and there is no place to go. So so it basically means within the domestic labor market, there is no opportunity or not good enough opportunity for you to be employed. So you go abroad and work there because we have not invested enough in, building or developing those markets or those opportunities.
So then the person does not have any choice. He has to travel abroad. Let's say if there is nothing in Pune, so I travel to Delhi. So this is a common thing, right?
Yeah, but not so emigration does yeah, depending on what lens you take. So we are talking of the national GDP, right? So we are not talking
Mhm.
about city or state level GDPs. So we are talking of what happened to the entire nation as things moved within there is a case to be made about the same kind of lens applied to say Rajasthan versus Karnataka or Ajmer versus Bangalore because of the same reasons that are being applied at the global level. So that's a different conversation. But what this quote means here is that we trained generations of people. Then each generation leaving, they did not stay to build something which could then allow the next generation to go somewhere within the country. And I guess I should classify that part. Yeah, Gitanjali.
Yeah, we can, but it's a little low.
Okay, one.
Yeah. So, in fact, to continue that discussion, and that is what I thought, because when you go through the decades, you also see at one point, I'll tell you which decade it was. So, 94 to 2004, if you look at it, Titash, it says liberalization and the H-1B visa opened a direct pipeline from India's campuses to Silicon Valley. And the previous decade, it says the personal computer revolution created an insatiable Western demand for Indian engineers. So I understand, of course, there is a fact that in our country, we have not invested in our country, but we've also not been able to invest in our country because there was a hunger from the West, which pulled people towards them, creating a little bit of a vacuum in our own country. And in a sense, that's also because you gave the example of Rajasthan, Karnataka, Ajmer, Bangalore. The reason why smaller cities are not able to develop is because the bigger cities have a hunger, have a greed for talent. So they pull everything away. Obviously, thus they have the money to be able to invest in other infrastructure, etc. So I can see that also as adding to the complexity. Of course, you have something to say, so I will.
Also, again, the thing is, it's about immigration and immigration. But if I ask this question, it would deviate from the topic itself. So,
So I'll come to that in a minute, Dharmendra, and we don't have to. We'll have to give others to chance to speak. But just to directly answer this question, because it's very important to understand. This is a wrong conclusion that a lot of people make, that because there was demand in the West, we moved. It was because the Indian government of the day and the people of the day did not make the right investments. Because if you compare the 80s decade in India and China, you will immediately see what happened. China went after, so the Chinese government went after the hard path of building labor markets, manufacturing, and the societies rewarded hard factory work. Whereas India went after the services sector of training our people into colleges. We actually penalized large generations of young people for not going into hard, manufacturing based hard skills. So this was the fork year where the destinies of these two countries went completely divergent. And so 3 decades down, 4 decades down, we are now reaping the benefit where we don't have those skills and those capabilities. So that's the thing. So it's not, it is about what you choose to reward and penalize, not the demand on the other side. It's a cultural thing, it's a social thing, many other factors. So I wanted to address that. Before, Dharminder, we come to you, we'd like to give some other people a chance to speak about what they felt. It can be anything. So who wants to go first? Sarah, Hardik, Anahita, any of you?
Oh, yeah, can I go?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I'm seeing that you have calculated the estimated lifetime GDP loss. The website calculates that. But then
Mm-hmm.
we are adjusting it for remittances and FDI, that is in numbers. But when we say 500, let's say 500K estimated returnees, so they are also bringing back the lifetime even value that they would bring back to the country. So has that been adjusted in this estimated GDP loss or not?
Yeah, so that's a good point, and actually that is the kind of flag that I think that might be a not something that we adjusted for. So I will have to probably do that. So now that you're bringing that up, that's a valid point. But I mean, largely speaking, that's a relatively tiny number. But yeah, I mean there is a certain complexity involved in getting to these numbers, and that brings me to the numbers by themselves. So that these numbers are guesswork at best, right? Both, so there's no accuracy that it can be achieved because these large numbers tend to fudge out a lot of things. Like not everybody who went to the US remained highly productive. Not everybody who went there did not return with skills or something. The idea of putting these numbers here is to kind of show larger indicative impact. The real impact is actually much deeper and harder to assess. Like, for
Yeah.
example, people not coming back means also many other socio-cultural things of the way our cities evolved, of how demand evolved, how we became more services leaning. But fair flag, and I will say that this needs to be calculated. But if we were to actually do a real hard number based balance sheet, that would make meaning. But these are indicative numbers, not meant for actual accounting, but more to kind of show impact so that people, because numbers are do that to us, right? Like if
Yeah.
we don't have these numbers over here, it is just a nice little graphic that shows the flow and everything. This kind of tends that these numbers are huge. Like for example, if you go 2014, 24, this goes into trillion, and this goes into, and that gap just keeps increasing. And so that's what is interesting, that this gap is what keeps increasing. And what this gap still doesn't measure is the innovation loss that happened because of a lot of key people who are real outliers, who went to the US and did things, who could have
Mm.
done them here, and we would have been those innovation leaders. So anyway, but fair flag, and we will review it to make sure that that is balanced. But that this is not the objective of the tool is not to be highly number accurate, but more to be indicative of what is happening. So, anything else? Any
Now
other
I have two
questions?
points. So firstly, Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I have 2 points. So, firstly, if we are stating GDP loss, so I feel the profit should also be included, whether it's indicative or not. That
Mm-hmm.
is one point. And second thing that you said, ki some people went to US and the innovation loss happened to our country. But there's also a factor ki if they went to US, they might have gotten better facility and they would have improved the skill which they would have been able to do in India. So I feel that is also a factor.
Yeah, that is true. But the thing is that if those same people had stayed back in India, they would have stayed back only if India had the fabric to keep them back. So if India had the fabric to keep them back, high innovation agents would have done the same things. The nature of events, it's hard to guess these things, right? But think about it this way, that if IITians, dozens of IITians each year, I mean, dozens is a low number, hundreds of IITians had stayed back, the demand supply of skill in India itself would have changed. Political, economic, social pressure would have changed. So, right from the 50s or 60s or 70s, we would have started doubling down on building, certain social fabric, which would have created innovation enablers. This happens in many cities. You can see actually a good example of that is Pune and Bangalore both. Wherever people, entrepreneurs, innovators have stayed back or returned back, those cities have had outsized impact on the local economy and innovation. So the data, the proof points are already there. So if innovators stay back, people with high agency stay back, a large long shadow happens. Lots of other people come back or stay back. So, hmm.
In
Oh,
fact, just to add that,
Sarah has,
Sarah,
okay.
is that?
No, she has something else to say, I think, and
Yeah,
then you can.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sarah.
no, I just wanted to understand that when we say this, where they left from, are these the top institutes?
Yes,
Yes.
these are so obviously there are many other institutes that they left from, but my intention was to show, and this is highly controversial, but I will make this statement. Yes, Gitanjali, yeah, that we tend to think of these institutes as great assets to our country, but what has happened with tier one institutes in our country is that they have become exporters of talent, and they have done more net sort of harm by enabling talent to go out than and they should have done better in trying to retain talent or pressurizing the government to build systems rather than becoming an exporting unit of talent. So
Yes. Okay, I don't have any more questions.
Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, I've not forgotten my point on discussing. Yes, exactly. So you talked about.
I'll mute and then you can.
Yeah, so when we were talking about, in fact, our talent, if our talent had stayed back, how we could have built, Now, I'm not from an engineering background. I've studied literature, and I went to a reasonably okay college, but not the top college for my undergraduate. But in my postgraduate, in my master's level, it was a level playing field. So I had classmates who were from the creme de la creme of Bombay's humanities colleges. And I remember discussions, like I was a relatively quiet student, but the discussions during the first year of MA were like supremely enriching. And the people because of whom we had those discussions, each and every one of them has left the country. They were extremely talented, intelligent people. Some of them actually had like a cross disciplinary education. I had two classmates who had actually gone up to the second year of engineering before shifting to arts. And like the discussions were very rich, and both of them ended up going abroad. Now, if the opportunities for these two people had existed in India in the humanities field specifically, because I remember back then that I also wondered what I would do at the end of an English literature degree. There were very few options that were also paying well. So, if those two had stayed back, I can only begin to imagine what could have been done in our own country. And they were just two examples. I'm sure we had a lot of those. So, that was one thing that I thought when you were saying that, if there were opportunities that existed in our country, we wouldn't have lost this talent. And related to what Sarah said, so I had a question, Titash, if you
But
can.
we'll let others speak before Hardik and
Okay, Hardik too.
yeah.
Yeah, then I'll come back. Yeah.
So Hardik and Anahita, you guys are left. So each of you take a turn and share thoughts, please. So.
Yeah, so I was going over the tool, and it really helped me understand brain drain in India and abroad. But I was wondering, based off of what you just said, if what kinds of graduates go abroad, if like are do people who look to gain more knowledge in liberal arts and sciences and interdisciplinary studies find more opportunities abroad, whereas people who do hard sciences and more practical sciences stay within the country? And is that one of the reasons why this brain drain is happening? I was like, it raised a lot of such questions for me.
That's a good question. Actually, I haven't analyzed it from that lens, and the data I have is more biased towards the technical. This thing, which is basically because largely right now the focus or my own mindset is that we don't have enough talent to compete in the AI race and many other such things. So I don't have the answer to this question about what kind of people left, who left, and what was their motivation. I can make generic statements like they didn't. I mean, the statement is generic that they didn't have opportunities or they wanted to make more money. But it demands deeper analysis. So I don't have the analysis answers to that. I think the larger fuel for people in the last few decades, especially so the interdisciplinary or humanities emigration, sorry, has only happened in the last decade, I think.
Okay.
The last 2 decades, maybe. So, yeah. Mm. Mm.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Anita. Hardik, thoughts, opinions, questions?
I don't have
Uh,
questions, but according to me, it's a great platform to see reality. But I haven't finished reading it yet. So once I completed reading all the decades data, I will come back to you.
okay, awesome. Over to you, Gitanjali. I'll just mute and
Yeah. So I'll just add, in fact, so the reason, and I mean, to add to the whole humanities thing, since I come from that background and I have had, I know people from the previous like generations in my family who've gone out. The ones who went out earlier were the engineering. The reason why I think humanities people have started going out now, in addition to the fact that, I mean, obviously we are looking for better opportunities, is the fact that these are also, I mean, visa rules have relaxed things. There is much more awareness about the kind of courses that exist outside. All of that has also played a role into it. Lack of opportunities isn't the only reason why people end up going abroad. And of course, there is, like in one of the slides, it has mentioned that one of the reasons why people have gone abroad is also from the societal point of view of better lifestyle, better infrastructure, quote unquote,
Right.
etc., etc. But I had a question. If we can go back to the tool, dash talent flow. So it was in 2014, 24, I think. No, 24, the last one. And in fact, that's also, if you look at it, I noticed that, throughout, of course, it says IIT, IIM, etc. But and the top private universities have shifted now from pure engineering to like Ashoka, which is a humanities. So yeah, that also kind of adds to it.
What is the question?
My question was whether your tool has also taken into account people going out from like other streams, because I know that there are a lot of people going out for their MBA and they aren't necessarily from these institutes. So have we mapped that, or is this just top?
So we haven't mapped that primarily because I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking at the lens of innovation and the direct economic. So services. So one key point I want to bring out is that we are fighting a battle of manufacturing and production, not a services battle. And we are largely a country of service providers. And that is why this tool is important from that perspective, because if it was just a services battle, and this conversation would have been a weak conversation had AI not happened to the world. With the advent of generative AI, services providers of any kind are a little less valued than they were earlier. I entered this decade personally thinking that, oh, it's a great time to be an Indian because you're at the top of the services game in every aspect. And now, as the decade goes forward, and is almost over. I mean, this decade is anyways over here. I think that it's a tough time now. We have to double up and beef up our, capabilities in science, engineering, innovation of all kinds, climate, culture, everywhere else. Dharmender has one question which I want to address before we call it a day. Where did that go? So Dharmender, you said, do we have gadgets and tools to build technologies and innovations that you are talking about? If not, what is the solution? And I think the solution is the hard solution, which is to double down and develop local markets, which will then fuel local innovation. So we need to, and this is in this room is just a conversation starter, but individually we need to become much more, of the mindset that how can we pressurize governments, policy making, social thought process to develop local markets, because we are always more focused on exporting things to the global markets, and that might have a limited this thing unless we become manufacturing people. It's really, really important. We are at AINA developing a whole platform around this, where the next session in the coming months, we'll talk about potential solution. We haven't, and we are building a community of people, which I invite everybody to join. The tools are meant to invoke thought, and then the solutions will come collaboratively, not through one person. So yeah. Are we going to take any more questions? Otherwise, we can end
I
this thing.
I have one last question.
Can I ask one more? Same.
Sure. Dharme- Dharmender, you
Okay.
go there, Sarah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
are we adding a future tab like what it would look like in 2030s if this issue is not fixed? Are we planning to do that?
That's a good point. Maybe we can, I can do it, and we probably should, because simulations are critical to forecasting and averting crisis. So good valuable feedback. Dharmender will probably build a tool, and in fact, I don't want to jump to the solutions. The whole effort behind AINA is to get to this point, but I don't want to jump to this. So maybe we will do a simulation of how we can, what will it look like if we don't do things. Thank you for that input. Yeah,
Okay. Done. That's it. Thank you, Tash.
yeah, thanks. Sarah.
Yes. So There's another question. So usually, as we say, IITs, IISER, all of those carry a prestige value as well, not just the knowledge part. And that is the same thing with going abroad. The mindset that carries a prestige value, that carries a status symbol, is also a major part for the emigration. So, do you think that is something that Indians can tackle with
Hmm.
the innovations and those parts?
Yeah, so if I understood your question correctly, what you're saying is that because these are prestigious institutes and the prestige is a factor that makes them move abroad, or can you explain the question a little bit?
So my question is, both things carry a prestige value. Whether a student is studying in IITs, that carry a prestige value in Indian society, and if a student is going to abroad, that
Hmm,
also carries the status symbol, a prestige value. So do
hmm,
you think if we build all those innovations things in India itself, that
hmm.
going abroad status symbol would still be dealt with?
Yeah, no, that's a very valid point, and that is exactly what the direction we need to move to. We need to destroy, not, I mean, destroy is a harsh word, but we need to remove this colonial hangover that that has been over us for the last 100 years, and that is why I took the 1924 to 2024 lens. This is a colonial hangover. We go abroad because it's deeply ingrained in our DNAs that bahar sab kuch acha hota hai, and if you're doing something abroad, it must be good. It's going away slowly right now, but that hangover exists, number one. So that needs to remove. And yes, the this whole idea that IITs and all of these top institutes are prestigious are a myth that need to be removed, because this does more harm than good. When you assess education with a certain amount of value, you are latching on to it a certain, and you also parallelly fail to build more institutions. So two things work in parallel. You have elite institutions, that's all right, every country has it, but you fail to build more institutions of quality. You fail to equally distribute. You have less number of philanthropic individuals who are building things for a population ratio. You end up creating a situation where there is a chokehold on institutions, and that automatically forces people to move abroad. So this is that loop. And if you study closely the other tool that we have built under AINA, the timeline, it actually does highlight this point that when the IITs Act happened, that actually had a downstream long shadow effect of creating a chokehold on where the country decides to put its education resources. And that we automatically became of the mindset that going to IITs is the only way for social upliftment, which then created a lot of other things related to the evils in the education system that we see today. So yes, you are right in your point that we need to deconstruct the myth that IITs are the only way or they are highly prestigious without damaging the institutional credibility. Institutional credibility and myth making of this thing are two separate things, and we should treat it that way. So, yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that with that we will conclude our session. Thank you for participating. Those of you who joined and those of you who joined and dropped off. Uh, uh, Please sign up for the community, and we will see you in our future sessions. Bye.
Done.